Well, again, welcome everybody. My name is Joe Casey, County Administrator of Chesterfield County. I have the privilege to present to the public, Board of Supervisors, and all other interested parties the County Administrator's proposed budget for fiscal year 20. That's the year that starts on July 1st. This is the beginning of an exercise of the County Administrator's process. The exercise now is turned over to the people and to the Board of Supervisors through many community meetings, public hearings, and hopefully an adoption date of April 10th. As you have seen before, the schools and the public utilities, as well as our local revenue projections, were done at the last month's meeting. All of those pieces and parts are now included as part of the County Administrator's proposed budget. There's a theme to this budget, and I'll credit Meghan Coates to my left here, not just her, but our entire budget team with formulating the document, hundreds of pages, many, many numbers, and they're there for you, for others to fully understand what it's in it. But the theme that they came up with was go far, go together. It's kind of the proverb, if you will. If you go quickly, you go alone, but if you go far, you go together. And again, that togetherness is not just the county, it's the county and the schools. It's working with citizens, 340,000. It's working with all our workers, which is about 179,000. All of our students, about 60,000. So many pieces and parts to this organization. I would say the first thing that begins with the budget is not just the dollars that's in it, it's really the accountability that goes with it. And accountability actually starts with the existing budget and the base, if you will, of what we are currently doing. We have to understand that we're spending every dollar wisely today before we just simply apply factors to it to increase it. Many people have needs and wants, and that's part of the listening process that we go through. That listening process actually started back last September through what we call our blueprint exercise in various community meetings. You know, the accountability factor is what are we doing today with the monies that the people have given us today? We have to be mindful that this isn't our money, it's the people's money. People have their lives, they have their businesses, they have their living, if you will, that produces their monies for their expenses. One of their expenses is living in Chesterfield County. We want to be mindful that that expense is as tolerable as possible for them and that they know that they're getting a return on their dollar. That's our role. We take that role very, very seriously in our stewardship. So that accountability on our side of the shop, you know, may pertain to public safety, which is over 25% of every dollar we get from the people. Public safety, a good indicator of that is our crime rate, which has gone down 4% in the last year. We're also very mindful of what the tax bill is going to be for that person going forward. We like to think that if there's an inflationary increase to government, and again, that inflationary increase is no different than the cost of goods and services people have, or maybe just an inflationary merit increase to well-deserving employees. Well, that inflationary increase should be what's on the tax bill. No more is needed than that. When we do have years where the assessed values are very high, increasing values, we have taken that effect of lowering the tax rate, and we did that last year. While those value increases aren't as high as this next year, they are an inflationary amount. I think the total revenues that we have are going up about 2.9%. We're investing that 2.9% back into the organization. We don't need any more money. We don't need to tax anymore for that. For that very reason, the tax rates that are established today are the tax rates that will be proposed for 2019. That also includes, if you will, a utility rate. Utility operations have a nominal 1.1% increase in its utility rates. Our rates right now are the lowest in the region for water and sewer, so I would like to think that going forward with this nominal 1.1%, we are also going to be the lowest in the region in 2019. The economy, you know, again, we have to look at the economy not just what it was yesterday over the last few years, which has been doing very, very well, but this cautious optimism, if you will, that's been expressed by many people is a concern for us too, and just paying attention to what is coming before us. The law of economic gravity will say what goes up sometimes comes down, maybe not to where it once was before, but to some proportion. We have had 117 months, if you will, since the Great Recession ended, statistically. That's almost the record of the entire United States, which is 120 months. So we are going to cross that threshold of 120 months before we even start the fiscal year. Does that give us some pause and concern? Yes, it should give everyone pause and concern. Should we pay attention to any indicators possible to know how we need to slow our operation down when, in fact, those economic gravity, if you will, brings the recession possibly to us? We're not here to sound any bells or alarms over it, but again, it's the awareness factor. So this is an annual exercise that we wake up again every day trying to pay attention to. Paying attention to that too is figuring out how much we should be borrowing today that we're going to have to make obligations to over the next 20 years. Our debt per capita is just one easy indicator, if you will, of the burdens we place upon our people. Right now, our debt per person, I believe, is about $1,400 per person. Again, a very, very low amount, hence why we've been a AAA locality for an entire generation. As a comparison factor, I believe the federal government's debt per capita is over $64,000 and growing as we speak. The most important part of our budget as far as the dollar allocation is our school system. Again, there's 60,000 students that we try and serve every day through Dr. Doherty, the superintendent, who is a friend of mine. Again, I was personal friends with James Lane when he was hired, and I've formed a friendship with Dr. Doherty as well. It's a tremendous responsibility educating 60,000 students, 5,000 of which graduate every year. Again, their focus is on all 60,000 students. We have to be mindful that those 60,000 students are about 1/6 of the entire population. As I mentioned before, we have 340,000 plus residents. We have over 179,000 workers. So we have to pay attention to all pieces and parts of the organization. Their budget that they have is $736 million in the proposed budget. And I appreciate the schools and Dr. Doherty using our local targeted methodology in formulating a balanced budget, for which, again, that piece of their balanced budget now fits perfectly into our slice of the pie, which, again, is over 50% or about 50% of our total budget. That $736 million for the school is $20 million more than it is today. And again, we as a Board of Supervisors and as a staff have reviewed the budget with the schools at the last board meeting. We also are going to be reviewing their budget further as part of the next meeting. Their budget, because it's now incorporated into ours, is subject to the community meetings. It's subject to the public hearings because when we adopt the budget April 10th, we are in fact saying what the rightful amount within our balancing tax budget, within our balanced tax rate, is for the schools. The schools do have some unmet needs, so do all of our different departments. We all do, as actually people always probably have unmet needs. Again, part of our budget deliberations is what needs are essential as part of the budget, what may be wants, what may be things we can work through long-range financial planning, for which this organization is renowned for. And the other factor we pay attention to is our investment and our balancing of that investment. I believe over the last 8 years, we have invested 1.7 times the amount of monies we have into the schools versus all of the county operations combined. The other investments sometimes that don't get mentioned in an operating type budget is the investments we're doing in their capital program. We have pivoted from the referendum from many years ago that had 8 schools being renovated to 8 new schools. I have not seen that anywhere in the state of Virginia, such a pivot, but that pivot was through a deliberate exercise of the county and schools working together and the return on investment and the useful lives of a new school and the functionality of a new school going forward. The employees of Chesterfield, again, that's the county, but it's also we're being mindful of the school employees as well. We are trying to position our budget to have a 3% merit increase for all employees. Again, I don't believe that we have had a 3% merit that high amount, if you will, for many, many years. And it's the value of this workforce. It's the value of this workforce as far as being public servants. For those that aren't in the public service business, you wake up each day trying to figure out how to serve your fellow citizen, neighbor, stranger. And the passions that everyone has in here, from the lowest graded employee to the highest graded employee, are held to that standard, that accountability. They know the why factor of why they serve the public sector. And I just get humbled every day when we do that. For those that aren't aware of it, we start every meeting really with the why factor story of there's some employee who did some random act of what is perceived to be kindness. They will view it as some random act of doing their job every day. As I mentioned before, public safety is probably the most important part of the local side of the shop. I believe we spend over 25% of every dollar on that, of our budget. So again, that public safety for Chesterfield County is police, fire EMS, and the sheriff's office. I don't have to tell you how hard it is to recruit people in public safety, especially in police. I am proud of the fact that we have not lowered our standards one iota in trying to recruit the best and the brightest and the highest ethical people to be trained to be public safety professionals. Because we don't lower our standards, we actually sometimes start our academy classes with less than the full allotment of personnel that is needed to be deployed. That puts pressure on the existing organization, puts pressure on overtime and other factors of the organization. We also have an anomaly in our police department whereby we have many seasoned, skilled people who were hired, a generation ago when Chesterfield was growing fast, that are actually approaching their retirement years. And that's, after 25 to 30 years or so. And again, we don't want to lose all those people who are eligible to retire early, with the fact that we're going to have more academy slots to fill. So one of the things that Colonel Katz and our staff have worked out together is really a police retention program, and by default, that retention program puts less pressure on the recruitment efforts that are needed. We are developing some great talented young people there, and for them to be mentored by these skilled professionals is something that any good organization should do. With the Sheriff's Office also, we are increasing their pay because I like to say, and I've talked to Sheriff Leonard many times and just very appreciative of how they are really a Sheriff Deputy Plus. And that plus factor is that they are on our bench ready to help out in any public safety emergency and any situation. Their eyes and ears are open as much as any public safety professional in trying to, again, ensure the safety and security of our people. The best thing about it is they're actually now co-trained during the academy with police for certain classes, because when you have a police officer and a sheriff deputy learning the same thing at the same time, they form a lifelong bond and a partnership in that academy that can only go forward. As many of you know, in the election of last year, we had some precincts, not all of them, just some precincts that had some serious line pressures. Those line pressures are a fact. Through the efforts of Matt Harris, to my right as Deputy County Administrator, he was invited in by the Electoral Board and the Registrar to work through the situation. That involves some precincts being added to the county, that involves some additions of poll book equipment and scanners to make the lines go faster. But what the other piece and part that's in my budget now is the addition of stipends, if you will, for our poll workers, for actually 400 more poll workers. We realize that the average age of our current poll worker is 75. It's a long, hard day, but we are under tremendous efforts to recruit volunteers and actually paid poll workers, working with the business community, now working with our schools who have closed their schools on Election Day, so we can hopefully tap that personnel to, again, further help the people of Chesterfield County to get through all the precincts in a timely manner. The last factor I like to point out is that the budget really continues some projects that we've had started that may come to fruition over the course of the next year, being opened or otherwise celebrated. Pet Adoption Center was mentioned at our last board meeting. And again, this is a unique retail manner in which we're approaching pet adoption, quite frankly, like no other as a government. We're going to hopefully partner with those in the nonprofit sector, those that are closest to the people and the passion, to build a facility that just looks very inviting and friendly to a prospective new pet owner. Hopefully provide a nice little trail system and park that goes with it so the prospect can take a nice little walk, while also maintaining our existing shelter as the intake point for the safety and security of animals, quarantining, again, vicious, exotic, and so forth. But to break these operations apart and really having a retail-esque pet adoption center is going to be something we're going to talk about often. The Magnolia Green Fire Station hopefully will be opening up. We're hopefully going to be staffing up our training class and academy class to properly staff it. The Baxter Perkinson Art Center in Chester is going to be like no theater you really have ever seen. It's probably being compared right now to the Modlin Center at University of Richmond. Bruce Miller said that himself, and again, if Bruce Miller, the artistic director that's recognized throughout the region, says so, then I believe him. And the last thing that's just another come-to-life moment, and again, a partnership with our schools, is the Beulah Elementary School. We have positioned Beulah to have a new elementary school, and what that has done is enabled the existing elementary school, which has some great bones to it from many years ago when it was built, to be converted into a Parks and Recreation Community Center type building for the people. So those are just some elements of our budget. Next Wednesday, we're going to spend about 5 hours straight going through department by department and having many presentations being done. So again, the Board of Supervisors, and by default, the public can hear the budget. The people to my left and right can possibly talk about all the different pathways online through social media to see and learn more about the budget. But please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call. Don't hesitate to come to community meetings. We are in the business of taking questions, and all we can do is try and provide you what we know in an honest and fair manner. Thank you very much.